Originally published in 1936, How to Win Friends and Influence People is perhaps the greatest self-help book of all time. Written by Dale Carnegie, the book contains the most essential principles of social interaction and highly effective techniques of dealing with people. Since its first release, the book has sold over 15 million copies, and is currently being recognized as an all-time international bestseller. This proves the fact that Carnegie's principles are just as relevant today as they were 80 years ago. The book has served as a guide to many trying to navigate complex human relations in the business world, and it will surely teach you how to master the fine art of social interactions to maximize the quality of your personal and professional relationships. So without further ado, here are the main lessons and takeaways from Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. Lesson 1. Don't criticize, condemn or complain. People normally don't criticize themselves for anything, no matter how wrong they may be, so you shouldn't criticize them either. Criticism is dangerous because it puts people on the defensive and makes them strive to justify themselves. It wounds a person's pride and sense of importance. It arouses resentment and only creates temporary change. So, beware of criticizing someone. Otherwise, instead of solving the problems, you'll only amplify them. People will get demoralized, they may feel compelled to justify themselves, and condemn you in return. Anyone can complain and criticize, but it takes a strong character to be understanding and forgiving. Instead of accusing and criticizing people, try to understand them. Ask yourself why are they doing the things they do and try to see things from their perspective. This will breed sympathy, tolerance and kindness. So, try not to criticize, condemn, or complain. You will generally be in a much better position if you refrain from that. But sometimes you have no choice but to criticize in order to improve someone's work or correct their behavior. In such situations, remember that most people find it much easier to listen to negative feedback after they've received some praise and positive feedback. Always start with compliments and point out some good things about the person you're about to criticize, and then provide constructive criticism gently and tactfully. Finally, don't forget to end the criticism with another positive compliment. People are much more likely to respond positively to this approach. Lesson 2. If you want people to like you, become genuinely interested in them. The easiest way to make friends is by becoming interested in other people instead of trying to make other people become interested in you. Yet many people go through life trying to impress others. Of course it doesn't work. People are not really interested in you or me. They are mainly interested in themselves. If we're trying too hard to impress people and get them interested in us, we will never have many real, sincere friends. True friends are not made that way. In order to make friends and to get others to like you and be more receptive to you, greet people with animation and enthusiasm. Say hello in a tone of voice that exudes interest and enthusiasm, even when someone calls you on the phone. Be altruistic. Do things for them that require your time, energy and consideration. Don't hesitate to show interest. But remember, a show of interest must be sincere. It must be beneficial not only to the person showing the interest, but also to the person receiving the attention. Next time you're having a conversation with someone, whether a friend or someone you're meeting for the first time, try to learn some things about them that you didn't already know. If they mention something in passing, say, an interest in psychology or a trip to France a few years ago, ask them where their interest in psychology comes from or what cities in France have they visited. This kind of interest and curiosity won't just help you forge strong bonds with others, it will also broaden your perspective and expand your sphere of knowledge. For formal meetings or circumstances, you can follow the example of one of the most beloved American presidents, Theodore Roosevelt. Everyone who was ever received by Theodore Roosevelt as a guest remained pleasantly surprised by his wide variety of knowledge. No matter who was the visitor, Roosevelt knew what to say. How did he accomplish that? By sitting up late the night before the meeting and reading up on the subject in which he knew his guest was particularly interested. Roosevelt knew that the elegant path to a person's heart is to talk about the things he or she values the most. If you research someone's interests, not only will you learn something new that might be useful to you someday, but you'll also be able to find common ground with the other person, and this will pay off for both parties. So, before your next meeting with someone, do a bit of research on their website or social media profile, and see if you can find out some information about their interests, hobbies, pieces of work, or favorite places. Before asking them to do something for you, set the stage with conversation around a topic of their interest. Give them the opportunity to talk about their passions. They'll be very excited to do this, and you'll be able to leverage that enthusiasm and positive energy to ask for what you want. Lesson 3. Be a good listener. Encourage others to talk about themselves. This goes hand in hand with the previous lesson. As already mentioned, one can easily make friends by becoming genuinely interested in others. Well, being a good listener is a huge sign of interest. The more you pay attention to people and allow them to talk, the more they'll consider you a good conversationalist. Here's a piece of advice given by the former Harvard president, Charles William Eliot. There is no mystery about successful business intercourse. Exclusive attention to the person who is speaking to you is very important. Nothing else is so flattering as that. And of course, being a patient, sympathetic listener is just as important in an individual's personal life as in business. So, if you want to be a good conversationalist and develop harmonious relationships, be an attentive listener. Show genuine interest by asking questions that other persons will enjoy answering. Encourage them to talk about themselves, their goals and their accomplishments. On the other hand, if you want people to avoid you, talk incessantly about yourself and interrupt them when they have something to say. People who talk only of themselves think only of themselves. Don't be one of those people. Next time you're having a conversation, pay attention to how much you're talking, and how much is the other person talking. Are you a talker, or a listener? Of course, a good conversationalist is both, but generally you should aim to do 25% talking and 75% listening. As you practice this, pay attention to what compels you to talk more. Are you just trying to fill awkward silences? Do you tend to get overexcited when you share ideas or tell stories? Well, try to find some balance and encourage the other person to do more of the sharing. This will pay off in the long run. Lesson 4. To win someone to your way of thinking, get them to say, yes, immediately. When debating with others, don't begin by discussing the things on which you disagree, but by finding common ground and emphasizing the things on which you agree. Highlight the fact that you're both striving for the same purpose, but that the methods of achieving that purpose may differ. Get people to say, yes, right at the beginning. Keep them from saying no. No responses are very difficult to overcome. When someone says no, their ego compels them to remain consistent with themselves and stick to it. Therefore, you need to get a number of yes responses and move the listeners in the affirmative direction. The more yeses you can induce, the more likely you are to capture the attention for your ultimate proposal. This strategy of getting a series of yeses to questions is commonly known as the Socratic method. The great philosopher Socrates used to ask questions to which the respondent would have to answer with yes. He kept on asking such questions until his opponents would find themselves embracing a conclusion they would have rejected a few minutes ago, without even realizing it. So, instead of telling people they are wrong, remember what Socrates did and ask a gentle question, one that will undoubtedly get a yes response. Next time you find yourself trying to persuade someone, get them to agree with you and say yes to at least 2 things before you each share your perspectives. You can do this by using tag questions such as, the purpose of this meeting is to decide on the best way to promote the new product, correct? Showing others that you share the same ultimate goals will make them embrace your conclusions much more easily. Lesson 5. Ask questions instead of giving direct orders. No one likes to take orders, so ask questions or make suggestions. Instead of giving a direct order such as don't do this, use a question such as, are you sure this will work? A technique like that stimulates creativity and encourages cooperation instead of rebellion. It gives people a feeling of importance and allows them to think for themselves and prevent their mistakes. On the other hand, a bold command will only arouse resentment which may last a long time, even if the command was given to correct an obvious mistake. Next time you're about to give an order to an employee, spouse or child, resist the temptation to forcefully tell them what to do. Ask them questions that will make them want to do what you expected them to do. For example, if you want them to avoid a particular course of action, replace, don't do this, with, are you sure this will work? Lesson 6. Show respect for the other person's opinions. Don't tell them that they're wrong. You can tell someone they are wrong by a look or a gesture as easily as you can with words. Beware though. Telling people they are wrong sends a direct blow to their judgment, intelligence, pride and self-respect. That will never make them agree with you, it will only make them want to strike back. Even under benign circumstances, it's hard to change people's minds. So, don't make it harder by telling people they're wrong. If you are going to correct them, always do it subtly, so subtly that no one knows you're doing it. Even if you know someone's wrong, it's much better to correct them by admitting that you're the one who might actually be wrong. There's magic in such phrases as, "Look, I may be wrong, and if I am, I'd like to stand corrected. So, let's take a closer look at the facts." Nobody will ever object to such a phrase. You will never start an argument by admitting you might be wrong. Instead, you'll inspire your opposition to be just as fair and open-minded as you are. Few people are logical. Whether we like it or not, most of us tend to be prejudiced, biased, and suspicious when it comes to seeing things from a different point of view. When we are wrong, we might admit it to ourselves. And if we are handled gently, with tact and diplomacy, we may admit it to others as well. But not if someone else is trying to push the unpleasant truth down our throat. So, if you want to get your point across, be tactful. Don't argue with your opponents and don't tell them they are wrong. Use a little diplomacy. Next time you find yourself disagreeing or becoming frustrated with another person's point of view, stop yourself from telling them they're wrong. Instead of saying you're wrong, use questions that will help you see things from their perspective, such as, "Why do you think that?" Or, "Why do you see it that way?" You could also ask the other person for permission to share your thoughts on the subject. This will make the other person listen to your perspective in a less critical manner. Lesson 7. Every time you're the one who's wrong, admit it quickly and emphatically. Anytime you're wrong, acknowledge your mistakes and admit them before your opponent gets the chance to do it. There is a very high probability that a kind, forgiving attitude will be taken and your errors will be minimized. There is a certain degree of relief and satisfaction in admitting one's errors. It not only shatters any feeling of guilt and defensiveness, but often helps fix the problem created by the error. When you are right, try to win people over gently and tactfully, and when you are wrong, admit it readily. It's easier and much more effective than trying to defend yourself. So, next time you find yourself being wrong, remember to be the first one who points it out. If you messed up on a work assignment, let your boss know about it. By conveying the fact that you not only recognize your mistakes but also that you've thought about how to avoid making them again, you show your boss that you are honest, responsible, and diligent, and he is far more likely to dismiss the problem and continue to trust you. Lesson 8. Use encouragement to empower the other person. If you tell someone they are stupid or dumb at a certain thing, has no gift for it, and is doing it totally wrong, you will destroy almost every incentive for that person to change or improve. But if you encourage them and let them know that you trust their ability to do that particular thing or change for the better, they won't stop trying until they manage to excel. So, rather than telling someone their goal is out of reach, or that they still have a lot to do to accomplish it, try to encourage small victories when possible. These smaller compliments can provide both guidance and inspiration. Encouraging and praising progress through various incentives or rewards can go a long way. And finally, Lesson 9. Talk in terms of the other person's interest. Make them feel happy about doing the thing you suggest. People are more likely to cooperate or fulfill your requests if you can show them the benefits in doing so. Here's how you do this. Don't be selfish. Don't think only of your own interests. Focus on the other person's interests too. Think about the benefits the other person should get from doing what you suggest. Make sure you match those benefits to the other person's needs and desires. When you make your request, put it in a way that will convey how it will benefit the other person. And last but not least, be honest. Do not promise anything you cannot deliver. If anything, it's always better to promise less and deliver more. So, anytime you're about to ask someone to do you a favor, buy your product, or make a donation to your favorite charity, pause first. Ask yourself why you want them to do it, and why would they want to do it. Then, when making the request, make sure you mention the reasons why they would want to do it and what can they gain from doing it. Talk about their interests, not about yours. If you do this properly, you'll be almost guaranteed to receive a positive response. So these have been the 9 most important lessons from Dale Carnegie's all-time bestseller, How to Win Friends and Influence People. How to Win Friends and Influence People provides all the tips you'll ever need to build strong and meaningful relationships. Although Carnegie's advice is generally targeted at business professionals, these principles can be applied by everyone, in any type of social interaction. The next step is to apply these tips and techniques at every opportunity. With practice and persistence, you'll soon be able to implement these techniques with ease and master the art of human relations. If you enjoyed this summary and found some benefit in it, please take a few moments of your time to like this video, and leave a comment down below. And if you'd like to read or listen to an extended and more detailed version that explains all the principles from the original book, and shows you how to apply every single one of them, make sure you check out the links in the description. And finally, if you're interested in seeing more animated summaries of some of the greatest self-help, business, psychology, and personal development books, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.